as well.
Alright, today we will be reviewing Spot. Spot is the most recent addition to the game, and I think he is a phenomenal character. So we're going to go over some topics, of course, his offense, like his damage and his utility, his best uses, like where he's going to be most relevant in the game, his signature ability and his prestige, his defense capabilities, and my complaints about him, and then we're just going to all bring it together for an overall review of the champion. So yeah, let's get started with the offense section. Now, for his damage, he has very, very fast access to it, and it is very, very strong. With the recoil masteries, it is a significant increase, in my opinion. I feel like he really does want the recoil masteries, but I feel like he's also fine without them, especially if you have him at max sig, because his signature ability is also a massive damage bump as well. If you have both of these things, he's going to be a monster damage dealer, but if you only have one of them, then he's going to be very, very fine as well. If you don't have either of them, then I feel like he's going to be a good damage dealer still, but you are just missing out on a lot of damage. His damage is red numbers, so he gets to bypass damage caps, and additionally, it has a ramp up. Like, you can kind of just have any form of damage. He has really good short form damage, but if you ramp up to the maximum, then his damage ceiling is just insane. Like, he has such massive numbers on the SP2, and I feel like overall he's a great damage dealer, and it's probably his most attractive thing, if not his miss mechanic, which we'll get into in a little bit. So let's get into his utility now. Of course, he has buff immunity on the SP1. It can be up to 20 seconds long, which is a very, very long time. But not only that, the buff immunity also provides a constant healing for Spot, which is very, very useful because if you use him with recoil masteries, he can just heal back his recoil damage. Additionally, he can block unblockable attacks with the portal block mechanic, which is very, very useful. And also, he has a synergy where he can go bleed immune with Purgatory, I believe, which is very, very great. And of course, you have to talk about the miss mechanic that he has. It is very, very strong. He counters so many things with it. He can counter hard to dodge special attacks. He can counter unblockable attacks. He can counter just unstoppable with it even. I tested it and he can stop unstoppable just by taking the hits and just retaliating back very, very fast. It is just incredible with how much he counters with this miss mechanic, and I feel like it is definitely his strongest suit, if not his really strong damage or the other mountain load of utility that he has. But yeah, his miss mechanic is just super, super good. Of course, it just means he takes less damage as well from blocked hits or just taking hits on accident. He's just a very, very safe champion, I feel like. And not only that, he also has stun immunity while he's untouchable, which is very, very strong. Additionally, only one champion in the game is immune to rupture. So this man has damage that's so hard to counter, it just means he can be used pretty much anywhere, right? Additionally, he kind of counters Purify in a way because if his ruptures get purified, it still counts towards the big SP2 damage. So I think it's pretty insane how he's he kind of counters his own class, his own class disadvantage, which is pretty awesome, I must say. Additionally, he has very strong access to Infuriate, which means the opponent will always play very aggressive, and you won't have to worry about baiting special attacks or things like that. So I feel like he just has so much utility overall. Now let's get into the best uses. I feel like Battlegrounds is his sweet spot because he has very fast damage access, and he can just do fights in such fast times. Also, he's pretty annoying on defense in Battlegrounds, I feel like, so he can be used there as well. But speaking of defense, I feel like he's going to be a good Alliance War defender because he's very new, he's very trippy, but I'll get more into this in the defense section of this review. Also, he has red numbers that bypass damage caps, so you have to mention Abyss as well because I feel like that's just going to be something that's very, very strong for him. Additionally, I haven't done much testing here, right? But I feel like he could be used in Alliance War because he's very fast, he is very safe, I feel like, but it just depends on if he's the best counter to anything, because I know in Alliance War you want to have the best counter, not just a certain counter, right? But I feel like 100% this guy is just a very strong general quester. He's very safe, he takes minimal damage, he can heal back all the damage he takes. He is just meant to be a very good quester. He does it very, very well. He has easy damage access, he can just do a lot on the team utility-wise, and he's just a very straightforward damage dealer. So I feel like he is mainly a quester, but he does have use in pretty much every single piece of content in this game. Now let's talk about the signature ability. I feel like his signature ability is massive for him because it is a major damage increase, and damage is kind of his like sweetest thing, if not his miss mechanic, like I said. Additionally, it's kind of worth like putting 6 into him because he is the 9th highest prestige in the game, which is very, very solid, right? It's not like top 5 or anything, but it's still a very good investment if you want prestige, because his signature ability is very, very worth it instead of like doing I don't even know, who's a champ? Like Phoenix, right? Phoenix is pretty high prestige, but she's just like not worth it signature ability wise. Spot is the opposite. He's really worth it signature ability wise, and he can really use the 6 because his damage gets a massive benefit from it. Now let's talk about this guy on defense. I feel like he's going to be a very strong defender because his animations are so trippy. Like his portal jumping, like just everything about him is very, very trippy, you know? Like his SP1 is really weird to look at. He's just everywhere on the map, and it's just like pretty annoying to deal with. Like to even just look at it can get annoying, right? He is very fun though, but it's just like to fight against him it can be annoying. Additionally, he has the untouchable mechanic, which is pretty annoying as well. You do have to have a miss counter, but even then, I believe you can just get like ruptured if you touch him. So, like, you have to look out for that as well. The annoying animation, I feel like they all just combine to make a pretty annoying defender. So if you're looking for a new defender rank up, I do suggest Spot, because not only is he a good defender, but he's just also like a broken attacker as well. Now let's talk about the complaints I have about Spot, and the number one thing is the portal blocking AI. It's not even his fault, it's just like the way the AI is when I try to portal block. This might just be me, but I don't know. I portal block, they do one hit into my block, and then they do a heavy attack, and then I have to restart the portal block, and then they do one hit, and they do a heavy attack. And it sucks because you can't block the heavy attacks reliably until he has like 4 or 5 spots. So the first few spots that you try to get can be very, very tedious at times. Additionally, I feel like this next one just like is mainly for the newer Spot players, but when you don't portal block attacks, his block efficiency isn't really the highest. Like when he is portal blocking, his block proficiency is massive, right? So you won't take that much damage. But when you're not portal blocking, you will take quite a bit of block damage. So just keep that in mind. If you're just learning him, he might be a bit of a potion coster because like if you're not taking portal blocked hits, then you'll be taking quite a bit of damage on the block. So just keep that in mind when you're like just learning Spot. My last complaint is I feel like if you want to get maximum uptime on the buff immunity, then you just like have to sacrifice a bit of damage because one, you want to get to 10 spots so you can get a 20-second buff immunity, and that takes a lot of time away on like the fight time. And second of all, you just have to spam SP1, right? So you can't really get to your SP2. You can just like spam SP1, and then when you have like the maximum ramp up for your damage, you can just do that. But then again, you have to get to like 10 spots for like the maximum uptime on the buff immunity, so that does take some time out of the fight. But it's not even like the biggest complaint. I feel like you won't really use it for buff immune matchups anyway, if I'm being honest. But if you do use it for that, just be aware that your damage might be slightly less than what it is usually. Now let's just talk about my overall thoughts on the character, and I feel like overall he is just broken. His damage output is fast to access, it is really hard to counter, it has a very high damage ceiling as well. There's just so much to love about this guy. Additionally, he has a mountain load of utility with like the stun immunity, the buff immunity, the constant healing, the ability to go bleed immune, like the purify counter kind of, the infuriate, and of course the miss mechanic is just absurd. It is such a strong mechanic. And additionally, I feel like he's just like good everywhere. I feel like Battlegrounds is probably his best suit, but he is also an amazing general quester. I feel like he will have uses in Alliance War defense and offense. I feel like there's just a lot to love about this character. And additionally, I really have like minimal complaints about him. They're like mainly just preference complaints. They're not even like actual ability complaints, I feel like. So yeah. Overall, I feel like this character is just phenomenal. Like, I don't really do, like, 1 to 10 ratings, but he'd be very, very high on, like, the near 10 side of it. So, yeah, I think this character is great. Definitely in the running for Champion of the Year, in my personal opinion. I don't think he, like, will beat Gallon, but I feel like he'll be, like, quite close to Gallon overall. And, yeah, let me know your thoughts on Spot. I think this dude is so good. And, yeah, that's about it for me.